everybody, and welcome to episode 90 of On the Road with AutoTrader, where we make car stuff simple for Canadians. My name is Jodi Lai, and I'm the editor-in-chief of AutoTrader.
My name is Sébastien Bell, and I'm the associate editor. And I remembered to say it once again. I'm getting better at it.
Welcome back to the show, Sébastien.
Hi, Jodi. Thanks for having me again.
People love you.
That's weird. I'm happy about it.
You're going to have to get used to it.
Why? Why, though?
Because you're good at it.
Thank you. That's lovely. I was fishing for that compliment, and I got it.
Yes, I caught what you were putting down. I have some really good news, actually, before we get started.
Okay.
So remember I told you that my check engine light had come on?
Yes.
And it was spooky season, and it was really ominously glowing at me.
It's really ominous, yeah.
And I was very scared because I didn't know what it was trying to tell me. It could be literally anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's always freaky to have to bring it in for a diagnostic. And,
you never know.
Could be thousands of dollars. Who knows?
Or it could be nothing.
And I've been driving around with it for like a week, and it's just been nagging at me the whole time.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, when Chris and I went for dinner to go to Vietnamese food, the light wasn't there anymore.
Hey!
I feel like I dodged a bullet.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, great news. Awesome. I hope that it doesn't come back.
I know. Let's see how long this lasts.
Okay.
But I was really chuffed that this happened.
The healing power of Vietnamese food.
Oh, it's good times. Okay, so this is kind of a continuation of our previous episode in which we talked about, or Dan and I talked about the EV mandates in Canada being reconsidered and delayed.
Yeah.
But also the news that Ram was bringing back the Hemi engine. And literally like the day after we shot that episode, there was more fantastic Ram news.
And it has only continued to come from like not just Ram too, from other brands as well.
Yeah, so the past couple of weeks have been a really interesting like news cycle in terms of like EV industry stuff.
Totally.
We're seeing a lot of headwinds to what might be coming. It says a lot about the state of our progress on more sustainable transportation.
Yes.
It has been an intense couple weeks.
Totally.
And because you cover the news for us at AutoTrader, you are very well acquainted with everything that's been happening.
So a lot has been happening over the past couple of weeks. So we wanted to do an episode, again, just bringing you back up to speed on what's been going on, and maybe taking another broad look at sort of what the market conditions are, what the political conditions are leading to that, and what it sort of means for the industry in general. And then, as you alluded to earlier, starting with the Ram, not only was the V8 coming back to the 1500, but shortly thereafter, they announced that the electric version of the truck they were not going to develop it anymore. So it's gone now. So that was the Ram Rev 1500. And Stellantis said that, quote, as demand for full-size electric trucks slows in North America and Stellantis releases its product strategy, the company is discontinuing development of the full-size pickup truck, which is a bummer to hear because that looked like it was going to be a really exciting one. When they first announced it in 2023 and then they announced more details a year later, it looked like it was going to be really good. It was going to have a 168 kilowatt-hour battery, which is enormous.
Huge, yeah.
That's so big. But that also meant that it was going to have 800 kilometers of range. It was going to have two 335 horsepower electric motors. It was going to be able to recoup 184 kilometers of range in 10 minutes because it was going to have a fancy pants 800 volt charging system. It was going to be like a pretty impressive thing. And that was going to mean that it was also going to be class leading in terms of towing with 6,300 kilograms or around 14,000 pounds. And 2,700 pounds of payload. That's 1,225 kilograms in metric. All of which was better than the Ford F-150 Lightning. All of which was better than the Silverado EV. So that was an exciting truck. And now Stellantis has just decided, no thanks, bye. They said no.
I mean, are we surprised at all by this news? I don't think at this point, I don't think we can be surprised when Ram or Stellantis just does something like that. Seems pretty backwards, you know?
Right. Well, and to go along with that, they also this week announced that they were not going to be putting the 4xe powertrain in the Gladiator anymore, which they announced in September of 2024. And then like almost exactly a year later, they were like, actually, never mind. We're not going to do that.
Yeah, so that is a plug-in hybrid version of the Gladiator pickup truck. Again, like I think what's happening here is that like Stellantis is in a weird spot to begin with.
Totally.
And I don't think they were ever truly on board with the way the automotive industry has been moving towards electrification. I think they very begrudgingly, made plans for these vehicles to begin with. And at this point, I think their CEO is just like kind of giddily more than happy to like cancel them all.
Well, certainly in North America, because it does seem like Stellantis in Europe is like a little more intense about EVs, and this was coming in. A lot of this electrification was coming in from Europe, and they were doing their STLE platforms, which were going to be like universal platforms that were going to underpin everything. And now it seems like, totally, you're so right. The new CEO is just being like, nah, no, we're good. And like, especially for the Gladiator 4xe, like that's such a no-brainer. It's like, how hard could it be to make one when they already have the Wrangler 4xe out on the road?
Yeah, and people really like the 4xe. And I'm not just talking about people who drive it to the mall. I'm talking about like actual off-roaders really love the 4xe.
It makes a ton of sense. It's a lot of low torque, and that's great for if you're like trying to get over something or up something.
And I mean, the fact that you can off-road in almost complete silence, get closer to nature, I think is just a really cool concept. So
truly,
it kind of sucks that again, Stellantis has been moving backwards with this. But are they replacing these discontinued electrified models with anything else?
So the Gladiator,
more V8 powered things, perhaps.
So the Gladiator 4xe seems to be on its own. But going back to the pickup truck, the Ram Rev name will be around, and they're going to do their sort of plug-in hybrid version for that. So that's going to be that was formerly known as the Ram Charger, but it's going to come. So that's going to have electric motors that power the wheels, but it's going to have like a small engine as a generator to charge the batteries, which also seems pretty impressive. 92 kilowatt hour battery, 1,100 kilometers of range, they're claiming. So that's pretty cool. And like, as you were alluding to, they also decided to bring back the Hemi V8 to the 1500 lineup, which is like weird.
I mean, I get it. And the funny thing, and I talked about this with Dan in the last episode, was that they claim they're listening to customers where, they want their V8 flag to fly high.
Yeah, which they literally have the badge of rebellion, do they call it? I can't remember what they call it.
It's something really cringy like that. It's like a freedom badge or something that was like highly American coded.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're charging extra for it, right? So they claim to be doing this for the consumers, but really, I think it is for their bottom line more than anything else.
Well, there's 2 whole cylinders to pay for, so you got to pay more, even though there isn't actually more power, which is interesting to me because the Hurricane i6 is like quite a powerful engine, and it's like it's more powerful than the V8, which is weird to me. Like, I get that people like V8s, people have emotional attachments to like whatever old school things, but it is weird.
By all measures, the inline 6 was better than the V8.
Yeah, and everybody who's reviewed it has said it was good.
It's a great engine.
And like, it's not like i6s are particularly like, tree huggy engines. That's what BMW uses in their like sports and their performance cars. So like, it is weird that didn't resonate. Maybe it was too European for Americans, It
was just not American enough for Americans.
Not American enough.
It's like, the whole mantra of there's no replacement for displacement. Yeah. Like, come on, please. We actually now know there is a replacement for displacement.
Indeed, yeah.
And it's called electrification.
And it's called electrification, and it's good in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, and so, again, in a previous episode where you and I had talked about vehicles that are going to be discontinued, Porsche came up a lot because they had a whole bunch of internal combustion vehicles on the chopping block, and we kind of got into it in that episode, but they actually came up with some interesting news in the last couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, so it's not just
kind of expand on that.
It's not just Stellantis, it's Porsche as well is doing a bit of a backtrack. So the big news from their recent announcement, which was like clarification, was that so Porsche has been planning an SUV that's larger than the Cayenne for a while now. it's been known as the K1 internally. And like for years now, it's been all electric. It's been an electric range-topping, super luxurious SUV.
Three-row SUV,
Three-row
right? Which would be the first of its kind for that brand.
Totally. A bit, it's still going to be interesting to see what that's like when it comes out. But the big news was that they have decided against making it all electric. They're going to make it, in fact, initially it's going to be internal combustion and plug-in hybrid and not electric for the first little bit. And that seems to be because the platform that they're working on is also being delayed. So they're pushing back a lot of their electrification efforts, and like a big deal EV is not going to be electric. So that's interesting. And they also reiterated that the Cayenne and the Panamera are going to continue to have internal combustion engines into the next decade, into the 2030s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another big step in the opposite. That's another big step backwards for them.
I mean, but they will be still offering those two as plug-in hybrids, right? Like they currently do?
Yes. And I think that, yes, absolutely. And they also said that like the Taycan and the Macan Electric are going to go, they're still going to have, they're still going to be all electric, and they're still going to support them into the future. And also that they're still working on the 718 two-door sports car that's going to be all electric.
Right.
Which is hilarious. I'm really excited to see what that's like. It's going to be kind of weird, but
I think it will be kind of weird. And for me, it's like, how do you give a car like that personality? Because the big draw of those being internal combustion engines is that they had so much personality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit harder to achieve with an EV.
Totally.
Even the Taycan, as good as it is, and as Porsche-like as it is in its driving dynamics, is still missing that element of
that's interesting.
Of like super fun, enthusiast driving emotional attachment, maybe?
I've never driven one before, so that's interesting to hear. Yeah. And like it looks super cool. I would really like one. We were doing fantasy AutoTrader the other day in the office, and we were looking at Taycan prices, and they're not that ridiculous.
Especially on the secondhand market, I feel like the depreciation on them was not kind, but great for us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not that we're going to be getting one anytime soon, but like that still seems cool. Okay, but good to know that they're not that, they're not that emotional, not that grin-inducing, but. I really believe if anybody can do it, it's going to be Porsche.
Yeah, 100%. And they've also been working on like different, they're the only people working on that different type of fuel, right? It's like e-fuels or something.
Yeah, which I have opinions about. I haven't researched this one as well as I have the rest of the episode. My understanding is that e-fuels to produce are enormously expensive. And actually, this is leading the shot a little bit, but further down the line, I did do some research on sort of the environmental benefits of EVs in general. And my research, I found some academic sources saying that like the best way to get energy to the road from whatever, the generation station is EVs. Even hydrogen and even e-fuels, which are generally made by, it requires a lot of energy to make e-fuels.
Right.
So like, great. And that's like, they are like in the vehicle, e-fuel is better than like petrochemicals and like gas. But in order to make them, it takes a lot of energy. So you're generating an electricity to make fuel to then get to the car. And like, I understand it makes a lot of sense if you want to keep your historic fleet alive, if you want to keep like, your first generation 911s or whatever, your 356s on the road, like sick, put some e-fuel in that. And that's awesome. But it's going to be very expensive. And the environmental advantages of it pale in comparison to the environmental benefits of just doing straight electric propulsion.
Right, because it's about like the lifestyle or life cycle consumption and not just a one-time thing.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. Wheel to well or whatever they say. And and my understanding is that EVs still kick butt when it comes to that. But
right.
And nobody has to bleep that one out. So great.
Chris is like, thanks, guys. Okay, so just going back to Porsche for a second.
Totally.
I am interested to know the connection with China. So we all know that the Chinese car market is a force.
Mhm.
There's so many people there and a lot of
Truly.
buying power.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the automotive industry has to cater to that market because it is so lucrative for them.
Absolutely.
And so as part of your research, you said that Porsche is but citing a lack of demand for high-priced EVs in China as a reason of why they're scaling back.
Totally.
And I thought that was interesting because I feel like demand for EVs is down globally.
Mhm.
So it's interesting why they singled out China specifically on this.
Well, I think especially for the K1. So about a year ago, Porsche's deputy chairman, Lutz Metzger, I hope I am saying that close to something correct. He said that the K1, the 3-row SUV, was going to be perfect for the Chinese market. It was really being planned for that because there is a taste for long wheelbase vehicles there. There's a taste for luxury vehicles there. But my understanding is that the economic situation in China isn't as good as it was a couple of years ago, and also that like a decade ago, Volkswagen and the Volkswagen Group in general were selling cars hand over fist in China,
right?
And like it was easy for European automakers to go to China, partner with a local company, and then sell so many vehicles.
I mean, American automakers too. Like Buick was huge in China for a long time.
And that's the reason it didn't get chopped off. It didn't get killed in the in the recession.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about this whole situation to me is that like 10 years ago, Chinese automakers were not really seen as a big threat.
Totally.
Today, that is completely different because Chinese automakers today are pumping out some crazy high-tech stuff that is really, really promising and also very affordable, right? And like they're breaking speed records with their EVs. They're breaking range records with their EVs. And so part of me is wondering, does that have a little bit more to do with Porsche pulling back than they're giving it credit for?
Certainly. I do think that that's a big factor there. Like, I do think that the speed with which the Chinese auto segment has like really gotten up to pace and like in a lot of ways overtaken, Europe and North America in automating capability has been a huge surprise for them. And also, I think, understandably, Chinese buyers want to buy Chinese vehicles. Like, I think that makes a ton of sense. Like, we like to buy Canadian-made stuff.
Right.
So, like, I totally get that. You probably want to support local. And so that's a big problem for foreign automakers there who were selling so many vehicles there. I know that especially for Audi, it was a big deal. They were like, huge proportion of their sales were coming from China. And then all of a sudden, the market flipped and they got overtaken, and that was a huge impact on their sales. So yeah, I think that has a huge impact. I think that with Porsche, I think that there are a couple of brands that still have the cachet and the sort of like, they still sound kind of bougie, and it's the same thing. We like it here. Porsche sounds good.
Oh yeah.
Whether or not you are a big driver or like whether or not you care about cars, everybody knows the name Porsche. So it still has a sort of impact. And I think that maybe they were hoping that the K1 would help recapture some like lost ground. But it seems like for a variety of reasons, they have decided that the EV version of it isn't going to be as popular there as it is as they were hoping.
Right.
So
idea for a future episode.
Okay.
I'd like to do a deep dive into how American automakers are faring now in China based on all the political stuff going on right now and tariffs and this and that.
Yeah, that'd be super
I wonder if
fascinating.
it was enough to turn the tide for a lot of Chinese car buyers to be like, I'm not buying Buicks anymore. I'm going to buy local and buy a Neo or something, right?
Totally. And there's Neo has those battery changing stations, which is super cool.
Super high-tech stuff, right?
High-tech stuff.
And there was this one Chinese TikToker that was like, I want to show you how regular Chinese people have been affected by American tariffs. And everyone's just like smiling and going on with their regular life. Like literally nobody there is affected by the tariff. So it'd be interesting to see how that shook out. But we'll have to do more research into that.
Totally. Yeah, but great idea for an episode.
Okay, so moving on.
And speaking of SUVs, another big surprise. Actually, this one was a bigger surprise to me.
Yes.
Acura announced this week that in September, I'm not sure when exactly this episode is going to go out, but they announced that the ZDX is being canceled, which is wild. Because
it's only been out for a year.
Yeah, it went into production in May 2024, and already they were like, nah, never mind.
See, that's crazy to me because I just can't imagine how much R&D dollars they wasted on this only to cancel it a year after. And again, they're blaming it on reduced EV interest, which we've seen, like that's not a lie. Like it's true.
Yeah,
EVs people are just not as interested as they once were, especially when like gas was very expensive and it's kind of leveled out now, right?
Totally. And like, to be fair, it's not coming out of nowhere. In May, Honda announced that it was going to be shrinking its investment into EVs by 30%. So this could be part of that. I think it's important to note that the development cost of the ZDX was probably lower than it would have been for another EV because they worked with GM. That's not to say that it's not still a huge waste of development dollars, because like clearly they had to work on it.
Right.
And like, I think you're so right. That's still a shockingly quick turnaround to be like, never mind, we don't want it.
Yeah.
But I do think that at least a little bit that's, helping to explain why it was less precious to them than maybe another EV would have been. And they do say that Acura did tell us that they're still committed to the RSX, which is the sort of is going to be a smaller electric crossover, which is probably going to be cheaper, and it's going to be based on Honda technology. So that's going to be their own platform. And like, maybe that electric platform is far enough along that they can't just bail on it, and they're so heavily invested in it that they can't just get rid of it.
Is the ZDX based on the same platform as the Prologue, the Honda Prologue, which is based on the Chevy Blazer EV? Is that the same platform?
So they're all based on the Ultium platform. I think that the ZDX is certainly built in Spring Hill, Tennessee, alongside the Lyriq.
I see. Okay.
And I think that they're closer in size. Yes. And I think that actually the Lyriq is a pretty good example of what was kind of wrong with the ZDX, which like all the reviews that I've read of the ZDX, again, I haven't driven this one, but they were pretty positive. Like, Kunal said it was a pretty good car, but it started at 88,000, whereas the Lyriq started at 70. And like, I think that the Lyriq is kind of a more interesting car in a lot of ways, or whatever, crossover.
I mean, the Lyriq, I've driven Lyriq and it was fantastic. And I think it had a lot of value baked into it because it had like Super Cruise and all these great features and it looked really cool.
Yeah.
And they were selling a lot of them. And so, yeah, it was just kind of shocking that Acura has already discontinued its only EV right now, because that leaves them at this point with no EVs.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No plug-in hybrids, no hybrids.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
So they only sell internal combustion stuff right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously they're working on the ZDX. Honda's working on the Type 0 concept.
Something like that. Yeah. There's like a big SUV coming that's based on, and that's the one that's based on the Honda built EV platform and not the one shared with GM.
Totally. So they're working on something, but yeah, they really haven't been all that focused on it. I think it's also interesting that the Nissan Ariya was discontinued in the U.S., but not in Canada. So here we're keeping it, but in the U.S., that's another EV that's hitting the bricks. And I looked at the sales numbers, and I don't know. Well, first of all, they sold 20,000 of them in the U.S. last year and 4,000 of them in Canada. And I think that means that the Ariya is more popular here than it is in the States, if you understand. Because
probably
we are about 10% the size of the U.S., but we have about 20% the sales of the Ariya. So like, I think that we like proportionally like it more. Also, returning to the tariff talk, I think it's pretty clear that the Ariya has been affected because it's built in Japan and there's a big tariff on cars, going into the U.S. So like, not only is it not super popular there, not only will they have, the U.S. is still going to have the Nissan Leaf when it comes out, which is going to be a little bit newer and probably, or certainly a little bit more affordable. So, I think that makes sense. But yeah, it's interesting to see what's going on. And that did make me ask some questions about like, what's going on with EV, with like what I have the sense, I had the sense that things in the U.S. were bad for EVs based on just, general vibes and gestures broadly at everything going on. But I wanted to look into it a little more deeply to see sort of like, what's going on there and what's leading to, and a little bit more, trying to understand a little bit more of what's leading to these headwinds, because I do think that the politics in this scenario are very important.
Okay, hit us with some facts.
All right, hit you with some facts. Okay, in the U.S., in July, the U.S. passed the big, beautiful bill which meant that that the federal tax incentives are going away on September 30th. They were getting $7,500 for EVs or $4,000 for used EVs. So that's a big deal. We've seen that incentives matter. We've seen in Canada that as the incentives have gone, so have EV sales. They really it's like line go down in one section, line go down in the other, in the other. So they're very closely connected. I do think it's also interesting that in Quebec, they reintroduced EV incentives. They're a little bit not as good as they were. But that's the only province that in Q2 of 2025 has seen an increase in EV sales from Q1. So, again, incentives matter.
Right. And in Q1, it was interesting because the incentives had dried up. And so people were rushing to get EVs before so that they could still cash in on those incentives.
Totally.
So it's interesting to me that even in Q2, there was still an increase. That's kind of a surprise.
Well, because, so the incentives went away in Quebec and came back. So I think that I am reading that as, the incentives went away, they hurt sales, they came back, they improved sales.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, and you're definitely right. We've been noticing, people want to get in while the getting's good. But that ended pretty... Anyway, so in the U.S., the incentives are drying up. I think that's going to have a big impact. Also, tariffs also going to have a big impact on the industry. I think what's really interesting also is that the Trump administration has ended penalties for CAFE violations. So that's the corporate average fuel economy violations. So that is when each company has an amount that they're aiming for to pollute across the average of their lineup. And if they overpollute, if their lineup is emitting too much, then they have to pay a penalty. They are canceling that because they are saying that vehicle emissions don't matter to the environment.
Oh my God.
Which is a lie. But anyway, so they're ending that, which has been going on for a long time. I think that's interesting because Stellantis North America has regularly been one of the biggest has been one of the companies that's been penalized the worst.
Not surprising.
Since 2018, Stellantis has paid nearly $1 billion Canadian in CAFE penalties. And that money a lot of that money was going to companies like Tesla because they had to buy credits from EV manufacturers. So I don't love Tesla, but I think that was hugely important in getting that company off the line. Mm-hmm. And I think not only does that decision help Stellantis pollute, and I think the decisions that they're making in that context make a lot more sense, that they're we don't have to worry about penalties. Sure, bring back the V8.
Right.
We don't have to worry about penalties. Why are we bothering putting a plug-in hybrid engine in our, in the Gladiator?
Which our customers clearly don't want anyways. Right.
And there's no incentive for them to do it. So it's hurting. So there's this, they're being constricted or whatever. They're being freed on both sides to just be well, whatever. We're not going to worry about that. And I think that also they have the European side investing in EVs for them. So even if all of a sudden it turns out that EVs were a good decision, they can be okay, well, we have a platform. We can just it's going to be a relatively quick turnaround to get EVs on the road. So I think that in that context, the willingness of Stellantis to backtrack on plans made previously makes a lot more sense to me. And I guess I can see why they're doing that, even though I think it's anti-science, anti-planet.
Of course, yeah. And even the title of this episode, right?
Yeah.
Is the EV era over? It's obviously sensationalized to get you guys to click on it. But I don't think, to answer the question, I don't think the era of EVs is over. I think it is currently seeing some setbacks. But I truly, truly believe that once a new government comes into place, that we will kind of be back on track to meeting our initial goals, or at least getting closer to those initial goals for zero emissions vehicles. I think we need to get there.
Totally.
The science is telling us we need to get there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think that one of the things that has been helping me in this process of not feeling just despondent about the planet is reframing it as there are so many intractable problems. There are so many problems that have no solutions, or if they do have solutions, they're like really complicated and it's hard to know what's right and it's hard to know what's wrong. This is a problem, and it's a real problem, but it's a problem that we have a decent solution for.
Mm-hmm.
And if not a solution, there is a way that is like simple and doable to move the needle on climate change. Because 23% of Canada's emissions come from the transportation sector. Small vehicles have been polluting more since 2005 because they've gotten larger.
Mm-hmm.
We know that carbon dioxide really affects climate change, and climate change is dangerous because we like it when it's cold. I know it doesn't seem that way, but like we are designed to exist in a time that is not 10 degrees hotter than now. And like throughout history, some of the biggest mass extinction events have been tied to big temperature swings. So like that's all bad. There is a problem, but the solution really is EVs. And like that is a solution that we can do and that we can work on. And it will have an impact. And like, I'm not saying that it's an easy solution. Like, I think that the criticisms of like, I think that the criticism of, I like engines, I don't think is actually a good answer. Just because you like something doesn't mean it's good.
I know.
I like F1 and it's bad.
I like eating 3 bags of chips in one sitting. Like, it's not good, but whatever.
But the argument that like the grid needs to improve is right. Like, yeah, totally. The grid needs to be more resilient. But like, if you look at what happened over the last 10 years, like the grid's been improving, and that is not a problem that is impossible to solve. That is a problem with solutions. And like the better access to charging in public places, like, yeah, totally. That needs to improve. But like the Canada Infrastructure Bank and like Canada is investing in improving access to chargers. And like I want to correct the record. The last time you and Dan spoke, where you were talking about the Tim Hortons chargers, and you guys were saying that like Canada has to do that. Canada did do that.
Yeah.
That was done with investments from the Canada Investment Bank. Like they worked with Flow, but like they were doing it. And so like, yes, this is a problem. It's a complicated problem that like does require us to work hard and think about it. But we know that EVs are the most efficient way to do transportation. We know that getting chargers on the road is a money thing, but that creates jobs and that creates like all kinds of other benefits. We know that incentives work to get people to buy more EVs. And we know that like automakers can make EVs. They complained when they introduced seatbelts. They complained when they introduced everything. They don't want to do things differently, but like, it's better that they do things differently, because even though there are fewer people on the road now than there were in the 70s, fewer people die today. And like that is like, we can have another change like that if we really try hard. And this is my TED Talk. Hello.
I mean, that was great. You were so passionate about this. I'm on board. Before this week's Ask an Expert, here's a message from your friends at AutoTrader. We at Own the Road love making car stuff simple for Canadians, and the AutoTrader app does the exact same thing. Sign up for price drop notifications, find out how much your car is worth, get an instant cash offer from a vetted dealership, get all your expert advice, and more. Download the AutoTrader app today. Okay, today's Ask an Expert. I know you have a lot of opinions on this. What do you think about Doug Ford's promise to ban speeding cameras in Ontario, and what is the alternative?
First of all, I want to start on a happy note. This is my first Ask an Expert. I'm really excited.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, every other time
exciting.
we haven't had an Ask an Expert. And now the sad things. I think that this is silly. I think that this is really like openly politicking from Doug Ford. I think that he gets to say a lot of things that are just incorrect and that he knows
fake
to
news
be incorrect.
For sure, yeah.
Another word for that is a lie.
Yeah, and I think this is another one of those situations where they're latching on to something like an issue that a lot of people can get behind. Like, no one likes being nabbed by a speed camera. However, the data does show that it's working and that even though people don't enjoy getting ticketed, they all acknowledge that it's a good idea.
Totally.
Right?
And I think the argument that it's a cash grab is really...
it's untrue.
It falls apart very quickly.
Yeah.
First of all, okay, the alternative is to put cops on the corner.
And cops cost money.
Cops cost money. They have to get paid while they're there. That's very expensive to do. So like, and that is your money still. That's tax dollars. So like, one way or another, you know, the money's coming out of your pocket. Cops, look, are dangerous for minorities. So this is a safer thing to do. Like having speed cameras is actually safer. And also like, then you have to rely on Santa Claus to like get people to like trust you because cops can't be there all the time.
Exactly.
So you like when you know that there is a speed camera there, you slow down every time. If there was a cop there last weekend, like there's a perfect example of this on Bathurst. There's a place that I drive down Bathurst, and there's often a cop there.
Right.
And it's like, maybe sometimes you get caught, maybe sometimes you don't. People don't go 40 in that spot all the time.
It's kind of crazy to me because I would prefer having speed cameras over having a cop because they always warn you when there's a speed camera coming.
Totally.
They don't warn you to be like, hey, there's a cop hiding behind that tree ready to nab you.
And that's my problem. That's more of a cash grab than a camera with a sign telling you to slow down.
Yeah.
Because that is a clear indication and like, you learn that behavior, whereas cops are hidden. So like they hide behind a bush and like you don't have that information. So like that's just trying to, it's not trying to trick you, but it is trying to catch you more, which feels like more of a cash grab to me than like clearly posting things of being like, this is the speed limit. This is the way that we're enforcing it coming up. So, yeah, Doug Ford's promise is interesting. Doug Ford has a lot of ideas about the road that I disagree with vehemently.
Yep.
And Doug Ford is wrong. It just like clearly and pretty openly wrong about this.
Yeah, this guy's just full of antics.
He's full of antics. And look, I know that this is like kind of a Toronto-centric podcast because we all live in and around Toronto. And I know that messing with people in Toronto is good, clean fun. Look, we deserve it. It's fine. I get it. But also making the city worse for everybody who lives here sucks. And that's just not fun. And like making the city worse just so that you can like appeal to your base is like
not really helping anybody.
It's not really helping anybody. How does it help people outside of Toronto to mess with us? And also, if it is a cash grab, then like, how does it help you not to have Toronto dollars? I don't understand that.
Anyway, if any of you would like to ask us a question, you can email expert@trader.ca. But that wraps up this episode. Thank you so much, Seb, for joining us. Thank you guys for being here. Drive safe, and we'll see you next time.